This is you. You wake up in a field in the middle of nowhere, your coat is soaked in someone else's blood, and your throat dry from smoke and screaming, and someone else's bayonet about 2 inches from your face. You don't know what day it is, you don't know which way is up, and you definitely don't know how you lost your left hand. So, there's that, I guess. Do what you want with that information. Somewhere down the road, another man is dying, calling for a mother who is nowhere to be found and will never hear his cries. Welcome to the war. You were born in a shack with a dirt floor and a leaky roof. Your first memories are of wooden buckets and chores before breakfast, and your breakfast is also infested with bugs, so bon appetit. The year is 1861, and you were raised by tired parents who worked from sunup to sundown. And even though they didn't say much or love you very much, they taught you the rules. You plowed the fields, fed the livestock, helped fix the fence when the boards gave out, and the one thing you couldn't do was complain. It wasn't a great life, but don't you worry, it's about to get a whole lot worse. When the war started, it didn't feel real. It was a rumor at first, but then the recruiters came. It was the Union of the North versus the Confederacy of the South. They rolled into town like heroes, buttons shining, flags waving, all of them smiling like they'd already won. They gave speeches about how bad the opposing side was and basically why you would be a hero for joining the right side of the fight. They said it'd be over by Christmas. They said you'd be fed and paid, but that was a bigger lie than when your parents called you handsome. Because you are, definitely not handsome. Sorry, I hate to break the news to you. They didn't say you'd starve and that your socks would rot off your feet in the war. They didn't say you'd watch a boy die with his lungs literally outside his body. You were young and basically forced to fight. So you signed your name, you hugged your mother, and walked away toward a war that killed almost 750,000 people. Yeah, probably not the best choice you've ever made. The average soldier in the Civil War was 25 and 26, but 70% of the soldiers were 23 or younger, and some were even 10 years old. Yeah, they had 10-year-olds in an actual war. I don't know about you, but when I was 10, I was still scared of the dark. The main weapons used in the Civil War were rifles like the Springfield Model 1861 and the Enfield Pattern 1853. These could hit anyone with dead accuracy from about 300 to 500 yards. Spiral grooves in the barrel made rifles more accurate, but they were still slow to reload. You only got about 2 to 3 shots per minute. So let's hope someone isn't running you out with a bayonet as you're reloading. You also had artillery, which could mow down an entire army in a second. Pistols like the Colt Army Model 1860, which had 6 shots. These were revolvers, more advanced than muskets, but less accurate and short range. Bayonets, which I've already mentioned a few times, were pretty scary looking, but often less effective than firearms unless used in a quick, close fight. So they were kinda just for looks, but imagine how bad it would hurt to be stabbed by one of these things. I'm just glad it's you in the war and not me. Oh, and I almost forgot about hand grenades. One perfect toss and you're eliminating everyone in sight. But there was always a small chance that when you pull the pin, it just explodes in your face. I guess we know how you lost your left hand now. Training camp was your first real taste of the rest of your life. Or about the next 100 days, because that was about how long people expected you to stay alive. The food was barely edible, the tents leaked, the drills felt endless. Your commanding officer screamed at you like it was the end of the world. The rifles were too long, the backpacks were too heavy, and your boots gave you the biggest blisters I've ever seen. You slept on wet ground and woke up colder than you went to bed. Some men cried at night, some screamed like they were being shot in their sleep, and some peed in their bed. One guy even had a snake slither up his pant leg in the middle of the night, but hey, at least that wasn't you. Finally, it was time for your first battle. You didn't even know it had started until cannon fire ripped through the trees like thunder cracking the sky. The smoke covered everything. You couldn't even see 5 feet in front of you. Everyone was screaming. Officers, friends, strangers, some random lady running through the battlefield. You didn't know where to aim. You only know that you had to point and shoot at something. Your best bet was just putting your gun above your head and shooting without looking. After you unloaded a few bullets, you take your gun back to reload when all of a sudden, the guy next to you takes a bullet to the face and drops without a sound. He had a family, kids, and a life before the war. Now he's on the battlefield like a sack of potatoes. I don't know about you, but there's no way I'm even thinking about peeking out and shooting my gun again. Afterward, you walked through the destroyed battlefield. Limbs were scattered across the field. Arms, fingers, toes, eyeballs, you name it, it was there. The surgeon's tent was a slaughterhouse. Screaming men held down screaming men while saws cut through bone. There was no anesthetic, just a bottle to bite or a belt to chew. The pile of limbs outside the tent grew faster than the list of survivors. You tried to help but couldn't look away. You vomited twice and kept going. That night, you couldn't sleep. The stench of death had settled into your uniform, and your dreams were filled with people getting shot in the face. The Civil War was anything but pretty. More soldiers died of diseases than bullets. In fact, 2 out of 3 deaths weren't from combat. They were from dysentery, typhoid, pneumonia, or infections. Latrines, or basically an old-fashioned toilet, were dug next to water sources, so soldiers literally drank the runoff from their own waste. Yeah, not only did you have to worry about being shot in the face, but drinking someone else's poop remains. Sorry, that isn't what you wanted to hear, but at least saying it is better than drinking it. Surgeons also reused bone saws without cleaning them, going from one bloody amputation to the next. Civil War hospitals had death rates over 50% during major battles. They called bullets mini balls, and these bullets would shatter bones. These soft lead bullets flattened and splintered bones on impact. That's why amputation was the go-to. If a mini ball hit your arm, the whole thing came off. So I hope it's at least your left arm that matches your missing left hand. Oh, and men were paid $13 a month. That's about 45 cents a day, and they were usually paid late or not at all. Even some Confederate soldiers deserted because they hadn't been paid in over a year. You used to write letters to your family, but as the war keeps going on, you receive less and less. Maybe your family stopped loving you. Maybe they think you're dead. I guess you'll never know. You marched through rain that never ended, mud up to your knees, frost in your hair. Your socks were tore up, your boots cracked. There was a chance that your toes rot and completely fall off, but that's probably the least of your worries, unless your wife is into that. Speaking of your wife, about 30 to 40% of soldiers were married, so you had less than a coin flip to be married. If someone was married, it was common while the men fought. The wives would run the farms, raise kids, and lived the daily fear of a knock on the door sharing the news that their husband had died. But don't worry, if you did die, most of the time the women would remarry, so at least you know if you actually died, your wife would probably marry your best friend. Has your kids, heck, maybe even change their name, who knows? Eventually, the war ended after 4 long years, or at least that's what they told you. You didn't feel it. You just stopped hearing gunfire. You were told you could go home, but after all this destruction, you didn't even know where home was, and you're still missing your left hand. Hey, but I guess that's what you get for being born during the Civil War, so maybe next time, don't do that.